This is my PowerPoint for 50 Fixes for America. This is the abbreviated version of the PowerPoint, and this is a rough draft. It's not finished yet. Subtitle is 50 Ideas to Change This Country for the Better, or at least to slow down its decline in death. Fix number 1. Secure the national infrastructure and private industry from cyber attack by running all industrial SCADA systems in the country on proprietary Unix boxes exclusively and getting rid of Microsoft servers. New hacks are occurring worldwide. The British healthcare system is the biggest shock. Organizations like that should be immune to such hacks. They should have multiply redundant disaster recovery sites. They should have secure and redundant real-time failover. This has been the standard in the corporate business world. I know this for a fact. I installed, configured, and maintain a lot of them myself since computer networks were invented. Something smells fishy here. But the biggest problem is Microsoft's server-side operating systems. They cannot be secured from security breaches or hackers. Too many lines of code. In 2005, Microsoft flew me out to the Seattle area, all expenses paid, to interview me for 6 days for a security position, a lead position, with the SWAT, Secure Windows Initiative Attack Team, and the Red Team to perform security scans of Microsoft software to lock it down. Microsoft must be antitrusted immediately, priority 1. The server-side operating system and its applications and utilities should be completely separated from the end-user operating system side and big applications like MS Office and all else. MS Office really has a lot of code, a lot of lines. Fix number 2, term limits for Congress. Term limits not only for Congress, but for the DC bureaucracy as well. Begin to fix Congress by enacting term limits. 2 terms for senators, 4 terms for representatives, but that can be decided after discussion. Fix number 3, universal conscription, as in Israel, India, Switzerland, and many other nations, for every American, regardless of physical condition or socioeconomic status. We are developing a nation of weakling Eloi. To counter this development, every American needs to spend at least 2 years in the military immediately after high school, as in Israel and 64 other countries. The wealthier the upbringing, the longer the military tours of duty, and more time spent closer to the action, in firefights and combat. The wealthier you or your family is, the closer to combat you serve, and the more time you serve close to the front. Every American should become familiar with the feeling of bombs blowing up around them and bullets flying around their heads. No exceptions. There are no exceptions. Crippled people, blind people, retarded people, religious people, high school people who are going to be doctors. Every developing human citizen in this society gets an experience of danger, a taste of danger, to aid in their development as a person. Fix number 4. Require gun education and gun safety instruction classes in all schools, K through 12, public or private. Children in America should be acquainted with guns as early as possible. Believe it or not, there was a time in America when gun safety was taught in the public schools. I love guns. I've got lots of guns. I've always had lots of guns. My family has always had lots of guns. I grew up in a part of the country where everybody had lots of guns. Guns are fun. Bring guns back into the schools without shooting anybody necessarily. Every school in this country should have NRA-style firearm safety classes, because every American household in this country should be required by law to keep a fully automatic assault rifle, a combat shotgun, a revolver, and a semi-automatic pistol, and should be required to practice with them on a regular basis. It's like driver's ed. You know, when you hit 10th grade, you're 15. Driver's ed was required, at least in Miami, where I grew up, it was. Fix number 5, teach American children how to think, not what to think, by adopting the curricula of Matthew Lipman's Philosophy for Children program, or P4C. Fix the public schooling system by enacting Matthew Lipman's K-12 Philosophy for Children P4C curriculum, and rewrite the national curricula for English composition and writing, mathematics, physical education, and music. Fix number 6, let the United Nations float away, literally. seriously, the United Nations should be located in a nation state with a long history of neutrality, such as Switzerland or Sweden. Better yet, transfer the whole kit and caboodle to a large barge, which would then travel the world, taking turns docking in all member states for short periods of time, probably a month at a time. And the next slide is a clipping of a cartoon that I took out from the San Francisco Examiner, Sunday, December 2, 1984, where it has a tree with a treehouse in it called the United Nations. And there's a fat sheik sitting on a swing that's hanging from a branch of the tree, which he broke because he's like obese. Then there's a monkey swinging in a tire, reading a Soviet MiG catalog, and that's supposed to be like, you know, African leaders of petty African nations. It says General Assembly in session. It says no intelligence allowed or Jews. Russians and PLO welcome. Do not disturb. We're already disturbed. In the distance is a little picture of Gene Kirkpatrick walking away. And it says, the caption reads, "Go ahead, Kirkpatrick, leave. Maybe now we can get down to business." And it's not far from the truth, okay? Fix number 7, affordable, quality health care for all Americans, okay? This is a very difficult task, to make it truly affordable and truly quality. As far as I can see, there are 4 logical possibilities for achieving the above goal. Switch to a slave-based economy, where you could make the workers at the hospitals and the workers in the drug companies and the lesserling people slaves, so they have to work for free, and that'll bring down the cost a lot. Second possibility is fully socialized healthcare. 25 years ago, the British had the best doctors and hospitals in the entire world. Today, they are on a par with Libya. I have family in Western Canada. My Aunt Joyce explained the situation to me. Their healthcare system is spectacular for catastrophic care. If you break your arm, or are hit by a bus, or have a heart attack, it's great. For routine care, for checkups and inoculations, it's like waiting to buy Levi's blue jeans in the Soviet Union back in the 1970s, where the line would be miles long and the wait could be measured in weeks, not days or hours. Third possibility is subsidized health care. This is like Medicare and Medicaid. It only covers special populations like retirees, the disabled, and the extreme poor. The more Americans you try to extend it to, the more unaffordable it costs. And in a way, it becomes a burden on taxpayers and too close to the socialization deal. Number 4 is my solution. My solution, I think, is the only solution that can work, if any solution can work at all. My solution is to attack the problem at its source. What's the problem source? The medical insurers, the insurance companies themselves. Legislate the entire health insurance industry so that it is either not-for-profit or limited profit. Put a profit cap on the entire industry. Fix number 8, get rid of daylight savings time permanently. We no longer have farmers growing our food. For the most part, it is mechanized industry anyway. Fix number 9, bring back all the jobs that have gone overseas in the last 30 years. If American companies won't bring them back, then force them to come back by taxing them out of existence. Fix number 10, voter fraud. Fix the possibility of voter fraud by enacting and enforcing stringent federal voter picture ID laws for every electoral government office in the land. This includes all levels of government, not just federal, but state, county, city, town, municipality, everything. We're not going to allow 5 or 6 million illegal voters to vote like they did for Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. Fix number 11, convert to the metric system permanently and completely, except for the NFL. Fix number 12, the death penalty for any agent of the government caught lying under oath, proven lying under oath, especially police officers. That way we will be more confident in trusting them and taking their testimony as truth. Fix number 13, Bring back the penalty punishment of exile, expulsion, or banishment, temporary or permanent, as they had in ancient Rome. We can pay third world nations to take them, keep them, give them manual labor jobs, and etc. Put them to work at a manual labor job for a period of their exile or banishment. The convict gets $100 to take with them to Botswana or Liberia or wherever we send them, or wherever we choose to send them. Most of the sentences will last a year or two. After 3 months in the country of their banishment, family members of the convict can visit him or her one time for 1 week if they choose. Fix number 14. Along with exile and banishment, bring back some forms of slavery. A society without slavery is a society without justice. Many people are born to be slaves. We can see the truth of this assertion revealing itself all around us in our country today. Postmortem Americans are the most propagandizable populace in history. They are the most conformist populace in history. Postmortem Americans couldn't give a shit about anything they can't either eat, fuck, or accelerate. Some people sent to prison do slave labor as punishment for their crimes. Then after dinner, they have group therapy sessions so they can vent the feelings their slave status creates in them. Fix number 15. Abolish summer recesses and exorbitant holiday recesses for elected or appointed officials, especially the U.S. Congress and the Supreme Court, especially the Supreme Court. I don't understand why these worthless fucks get the entire summer off, all of December and most of January and part of November off. It's like, you know, teachers get the summer off. So are they trying, are we to make them out to be teachers? You know, if so, I would like to know if they pay for their own office supplies like pens and paper and computer disks and printer paper and all this stuff, like teachers pay for their own supplies for the entire class. I don't think they do. Fix number 16. Create a new technologically advanced transportation infrastructure with bullet trains, Hyperloop, and others. Fix number 17. Put an end to media consolidation by applying antitrust, anti-monopoly laws and protections to the worst offenders. Here's a list of the 12 worst offenders. Almost in number one should be number one. Almost in order of offense. Number 1, Microsoft. When I reveal to the country all the bullshit that Microsoft has been pulling, people are going to hate that company. Number 2 is Amazon. Number 3, Google. Number 4, General Electric. This one should have been antitrusted 50 years ago. Number 5, Facebook. Number 6, CBS. Number 7, Disney. Number 8, Time Warner. Number 9, Comcast. Number 10, Viacom. Number 11, Nestle. Number 12, Exxon. There are plenty more. Fix number 18. A modest proposal for curing our obesity epidemic. Every obese or morbidly overweight American, in addition to every American diagnosed with diabetes, should be required to trade places with starving sweatshop workers in one from a list of the world's hungriest countries for a designated period of time. For example, however long it takes for the obese person to reduce weight to normal. Some potential landing zones include Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Angola, Ethiopia, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Burundi, Congo, and Haiti. In other words, shithole nations. Making the list is the easy part, since most of the world is starving most of the time anyway. The program I am recommending here will be similar to foreign exchange student program that has been in operation for decades. Our program here will be called the EDU's Exchange Training Program, or EET for short, to note its similarity of structure. Most of the obesity in our country today is the result of comfort eating, wherein empty people who feel themselves worthless and purposeless attempt to symbolically fill the symbolic void within them by shoving crap into their face holes. With my program, they will work 16 hours a day in sweatshops doing hard manual labor in any of the countries on the list. This will help sweat out some of the fat. Not only will they have little to no leisure time with which to stuff their faces, but there won't be too much of any food either comfort or otherwise, so the problem is self-solving. Within a year, they should return to the U.S. quite slimmed down and trim. Cure the obesity epidemic by enacting a workers' exchange program similar to the foreign exchange programs of the 70s by requiring every obese or morbidly overweight person and those diagnosed with diabetes to trade places with starving sweatshop workers and one from a list of the world's hungriest countries for a designated period of time. For example, however long it takes for the obese person to reduce their weight to normal. Fix number 19, abolish billionaires. Billionaires are a threat to democracy. The world at large has no need of billionaires. Once you have a net worth of $1 billion or more, you have enough wealth to put together your own private army. You have enough money to make most anyone you want to disappear. There is nothing in the Constitution that says we must suffer billionaires. For postmortem America specifically, the existence, the very idea of the billionaire is a serious danger to democracy. Money does not belong in the millionaires. Money does not belong to the millionaires and billionaires who think they own it. Money belongs to the federal government and therefore to the people as a unit. There is absolutely no reason for any one person or any single family to own more than $100,000 worth of stuff. Nobody deserves that much money. Nobody has that much value or importance as a person. This is not in any way a redistribution of wealth. Put the money back into the Commonwealth. Rebuild the infrastructure. Pay off national or governmental debt. Create jobs and fund research. Therefore, individuals or their families possessing a gross worth of $1 billion, that's any assets, property, horses, planes, factories, businesses, whatever, should be taxed out of their billionaireship. I recommend a tax rate of 80% or more for all individual billionaires or billionaire clans. Okay? We're not going to let them get away with giving some of the money to family and friends so that they cannot avoid the tax by distributing their property among family members and associates. Abolish billionaires by taxing them out of existence and putting the funds back into the Commonwealth as a whole, but not as a redistribution of wealth to poor people. Fix number 20. Make a list of obligations of American citizenship, including requiring an understanding of our history, our constitutional law, and our form of government. Make the obligations of American citizenship inversely proportional to each individual citizen's ability to exercise their rights. Make the obligations of American citizenship inversely proportional to each individual citizen's right to exercise their rights. In other words, fix number 21, suspension of civil liberties as penalty for cultural illiteracy pertaining to basic understanding of American history, American government, and American constitutional law. When I was an undergraduate, I was privileged to take courses with and then later work as an undergraduate research assistant for Herbert McCloskey, one of the greatest political scientists and social scientists ever. In the 70s, he spent 10 years doing research around the country, giving pencil and paper tests and attitude scales and etc. to try to determine how much Americans know about civil liberties. This was all written up in a book called Dimensions of Tolerance, What Americans Believe About Civil Liberties. And what he and his associates found is that Americans don't know anything about their history or their country or their government and don't give a shit. Make a list of obligations of American citizenship, including requiring an understanding of American history, American constitutional law, and the uniqueness of the American form of government, and making a citizen's civil rights dependent upon civic obligations and responsibilities. I'm slurring words because I just got back from training for 3 hours and everything is sore and I'm tired and want to eat dinner. So I'll get on. Fix number 22. Official language of the United States is American English. Yes, there is a distinction between American English and British English, and there are several dictionaries for American English. The official language of the United States of America is the language the fundamental foundational documents were written in. The U.S. Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Articles of Confederation, and etc. Sine qua non in veritas vincit, if those are the correct Latin phrases. Fix number 23. ensure energy independence by creating technology that can convert solar radiation into a usable and sustainable energy source. Trump has already managed to make us energy independent for the time being, but we've got to find a way to use and abuse this energy that radiates on us every day. Ensure that oil companies nor others can get in the way, can stop this. Fix number 24, help fix the healthcare system and the obesity epidemic by taxing processed sugar and derivatives like corn syrup out of existence. That seems like a pretty obvious one to me. Fix number 25, corporate corruption and interference. Fix corporate corruption and corporate interference in society at large by more strictly regulating commercial advertising, marketing, and the public relations industry, so that it's more difficult for them to lie or deceive. Fix number 26. Fix the exploding overpopulation problem by legalizing and encouraging suicide and creating suicide centers like those depicted in the movie Soylent Green. Fix number 27. Fix the federal judiciary system by outlawing the criminal practice of legislating from the bench. This is a criminal practice, and I will explain why. Judges of the Ninth Circuit and the D.C. Circuit took an oath to support and defend the U.S. Constitution and to therefore render decisions with the U.S. Constitution as the main and only guide, and many of them have broken that oath, which is a felony. Erase John Marshall's gambit. Create rules to ensure the Supreme Court rules in terms of originalist or textualist orientations, and justices are chosen according to those legal values. Okay? There is nothing in the Constitution that says that the Supreme Court decides what the Constitution says. Nothing. Nowhere is it written. Okay? This was what I call John Marshall's gambit, because John Marshall was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court during James Madison's presidency, and James Madison did not want the Supreme Court to be interpreting the Constitution, because James Madison believed, like Jefferson, Washington, John Adams, and all the others, that the United States would produce not equality, because equality is another concept that is nowhere mentioned in the United States Constitution. He wanted to ensure that they believed that we would produce what they call a natural aristocracy, as opposed to the aristocracy that they broke away from in Europe and elsewhere. Okay? Sorry. Fix number 28. Repair and upgrade the national physical infrastructure, starting with the New York City MTA subway system. Fix number 29. Stop helping third world countries. Okay? Even Karl Marx said, famously, that no matter how equal you make a society, and how just, by his definitions of equality and justice, you'll always have poor people. The reason is because no matter what you do, there will always be people who are incompetent to live. They are too incompetent to run their own lives. And this is exactly what is happening in these third world countries. We have to stop giving them money or aid or food. We should give them one thing: education/training. We should try to teach them how to put together an honest, non-corrupt, working, not fragile state. Fix number 30. Fix the Gregorian Julian calendars. Fix the Gregorian and/or Julian calendars now in place by removing the zero from history with one calendar that begins where and when human civilization, and therefore human history, begins. The Sumerian city of Uruk, which as far as we know is the oldest known city in history. It was founded in the, most historians define civilization as society organized into a city. So the first city should be the first year of civilization. Sumeria, which as far as we know is the oldest known city in history. It was founded in the year 4500 BC. That would change the current year. from 2019 into the year 6519. Okay, because that's 4500 BC plus the 2000 whatever years we've amassed, which is 6519. I think it's a cool idea. The problem is we'd have to destroy all those beautiful calendars with the irises and sunflowers of Vincent van Gogh and etc. Fix number 31. Repeal the 65 civil rights legislation so that small business owners again have the freedom to refuse service to any person for whatever reason they may see fit. And landlords have the right to rent to whomever they want to rent to. If they don't want to rent to Serbo-Croatians because they don't like Serbo-Croatians, that's their right. These laws represent creeping communism. Fix number 32. Abolish hate crime laws. They are propaganda tools for certain corrupt segments of this society. Fix number 33. Further fix the criminal justice system by making the legal aid budget equal to or greater than the DA budget. Okay? Because rich people like OJ and Hillary Clinton and all these other people can keep from being prosecuted or keep from being convicted because they have lots of money to put together legal teams. So we should at least give some poor guy who has no money a better chance at a legal defense. Okay? Fix number 34. Hunt down and destroy tax havens all over the world. Fix money nihilist corruption, which the term I've created for it is Snopesism, in this country by hunting down and destroying each and every possible tax haven around the world. We will go to Swiss banks and Virgin Island banks and all these other offshore banks, and we will force them to reveal any accounts held by American citizens. Fix number 35. Stop space flighting and finish disease curing. I think, space is the final frontier. I think it's fantastic that we're making all the progress we have, but we should put a halt on that. Definitely keep all the NASA engineers employed in one way or another, but we should be spending this on curing the final diseases that torture us. If we have the technological genius to travel outside the solar system, which it looks like we're gaining, we should be able to cure pathologies that should not exist in the first place, just such as blindness, deafness, paralysis, limb loss, arthritis, and etc., etc. I'm really tired. I'm sorry, whoever's listening to this. Fix number 36. All generals and top-ranking officers in our military should be required to drill with the troops and the grunts and maintain combat-ready physical fitness at all times. Fat generals are an abomination and a contradiction in terms. Same should be required of all police officers in the country, especially those in big cities like New York City. No donut bellies on our cops. Fix number 37. Force Pakistan to take care of our problems in Afghanistan, even if it means paying them to do it, even if it means forcing them via military action. It seems to be an endless task to neutralize the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, IS, and the rest. The problem is these people hide away in the Pashtun province mountains on the border between the two nations. This is really their problem to begin with. Pakistan, like Russia and China, are our enemies, not our friends. We've got to get out of Afghanistan, but we cannot let it go develop back to what it was. So we have to hire someone to fix it permanently. They sheltered bin Laden within their borders for years after 9/11. Immediately after the 9/11 attacks, we threatened Pakistan. There is no way the Pakistani intelligence was aware of bin Laden's presence in their country. We told them we would bomb them into the Stone Age if they didn't help us after 9/11, so they did. We should use a carrot-stick approach to force them to solve this problem for the rest of the world. Fix number 38. No person with a law degree or bar membership should be allowed to run for Congress or any other elected office, or to take a seat in either House of Congress or assume any elected official, or any elected office. This is, of course, the Supreme Court and the judiciary is an exception to this. They have to be lawyers. But no more lawyers in the president's chair. No more lawyers in Congress. Of course, we will employ lawyers as, as assistants to help Congress and others draft the law and make sure that they're legal and make sure the legal language is correct. But that doesn't mean they have to be lawyers themselves. Fix number 39. I mean, most people who go to law school to become lawyers have no intention of practicing law, right? I mean, they're interested in making money. Fix number 39. Create an honest news source. Call it the Lies and Propaganda News Network, LPNN, or LPN for short. It should be similar to C-SPAN. With that name, they can afford to be honest. Problem is, few Americans would watch it, even if you paid them to watch it. The problem is not just the media. The problem is Americans in America. Fix number 40. Citizen monitoring of the CIA and the entire intel community, especially the black sites where we torture our enemies and captives. Fix number 41. Make the internet a public utility, but with special rules against overregulation. We don't want to go too far in the other direction, okay? We want some control. We want it to be something that anybody, anywhere with a cell phone or computer can tap into. But we also don't want bureaucrats involved. Fix number 42, prison reform. All records are expunged or sealed after felons finish their sentences and have paid their debt to society. Exception, pedophiles. That's the only exception. Rapists and other sex offenders, quote unquote, are not exceptions. They get a second chance and a fresh start, just like the other felons. Why don't pedophiles get a second chance and fresh start? Because their problem is physiological and psychological. And the only way to reform them, to keep them from harming children sexually, is to either chemically castrate them or physically castrate them. So if we expunge their records, no one will know to make sure that they continue to be chemically castrated. I don't know how it works. I think you have to go to a doctor several times a year or once a month and be shot up with whatever medication they use to castrate them. Because their psychological problems are mostly physiological and cannot be cured unless they're chemically or physically castrated. Fix number 43. Citizens have the right to bear whatever arms the government has. Of course, we all know why James Madison wrote the Second Amendment and why he put it number 2 in the Bill of Rights, right? Number 1 was freedom of speech, the press, assembly, etc., etc. And then right number 2 gives you the tools with which to defend and keep those First Amendment rights and responsibilities if the government goes corrupt or tyrannical and tries to take them. That's the main number 1 reason why the Second Amendment exists. The right to bear arms. The people have the right to bear whatever arms the government has. Now, lots of retards have said, oh, so they should have nuclear, uranium-235 and tanks and all. No, those aren't arms. They're weapons, but they're not arms, okay? They're bombs. Tanks, planes, nuclear weapons, those aren't arms, they are bombs. The Constitution mentions arms specifically, weapons that you can hold in your arms or in your hand. If some guy is strong enough to pick up a tank and carry it and let it shoot from his carrying on his shoulders, then he can have a tank. Okay? They think they're smart with these bullshit fucking counter arguments. Fix number 44. This is a rough draft of this counterpoint, and it will be rearranged and made into a final draft. And this is the last fix that I've done so far. I've got more in my notes. I have to type them in. But this should be number 1, and I'll explain why. Make research into quantum computation the major priority of science in this country. It is imperative that we stay ahead of the rest of the world in quantum computation technology and that we stay far ahead. If some country made a major breakthrough before we do, we could be completely vulnerable to that country economically, militarily, and many other ways. For one thing, they could render all of our cryptography useless. and they could then control all of our computer networks and computer systems. We would no longer have the possibility of secure communications. No more online banking or business, for one thing. Worse still, they could control the encrypted networks that the military relies on. Thank you.